Are you ready to move from an ordinary life to an extraordinary one where you meet your business goals, create a life that has success in health, wealth, and for self? Then come and join us for our retreat in Byron Bay, Australia at the end of July, start of August 2025, and come and rediscover who you really are. More details can be found at willowhealing.org.
Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I have with me Thomas Cataldo. So he is an acupuncturist with a decade of experience and almost 10,000 treatments performed, mostly for chronic pain and fertility issues. He has a beautiful clinic called the Golden Touch Acupuncture, and a big welcome to the show, Thomas.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
So I love to hear how people get pulled into their line of work or what their passion is. So how did you get pulled to acupuncture?
Well, I always wanted to help people, and I was in finance at the time in the early 2000s working for American Express. And I had a chiropractor friend, and I said to her one day, "What are the career opportunities in healthcare?" And she said, "Well, there's chiropractics, medical doctor, massage therapy, acupuncture." And as soon as I heard acupuncture, I knew that was it. I
I
knew
love
nothing about it,
I love
uh, but I knew that was the right thing. So within a couple of years, I was enrolled in acupuncture college.
I love that. That was such a gut intuitive response right there, right? It's just like, I don't know what that is, but that just feels right. I'm just doing that.
Well, that's your response there is more intuitive than you realize, because I realized at a very early age that living intuitively, what Carl Jung would call the intuitive introvert, I realized that living intuitively yielded much better results than trying to calculate everything. And I have been living intuitively since I was about 20 years old. I'm much older now. And I just find that if you and it's not even so much going with your gut, although that is a big part of it, but if you just go with the flow, okay, what I found is that it's it's a much frictionless, uh, much less trouble in your life, um, and things just seem to go along effortlessly. It's in Chinese we call it Wu Wei. Wu Wei. Wu Wei means doing without doing, effortless living, going with the flow, and it's a concept of early Taoism. Early Taoism speaks about living in harmony with nature, and um, there's a lot of uh, Taoist monks who do what they call the renunciation. They renounce living in quote unquote modern society, and they live out in nature. And all they do is pray, read read ancient scriptures, learn maybe the medicinal arts, the martial arts, and meditation, which is a big part of it.
Yeah.
So, being intuitive, and you don't even have to be, some super intuitive who knows what's going to happen next. All you really have to do is look at the various paths that are open to you and choose the one that presents itself to you. That's really all it amounts to.
Yeah, and
It's
it's I love that you say that too, because often we put so much weight in a decision, and it's like, no, a decision's just a decision. You just make the decision, like whatever comes to your head first. That's normally the right answer. Just go with that,
Yeah.
and then if it ends up not leading you where you want to be, then you make another decision, right? So it's just a decision
Well,
leads to a decision.
I what I find is that most people, when presented with a choice, okay, and let's keep it simple. Should I have the chicken or the steak, right?
Yeah.
Most people will know the answer within 2 seconds, but then to satisfy their own mind, they'll go through the decision making process of weighing all the alternatives. But what they're really doing is they're seeking, um, it's not confirmation bias. It's more like they're seeking anything that will justify the decision that they came to in 2 seconds. Okay, so they're looking for evidence to support their intuitive feeling, and then we'll, me included, will pretend to go through this lengthy process of, you know, maybe doing what used to be called a Franklin ledger, where you look at the pros and cons. And but then you'll say, you know what? I like this decision better. It feels right.
Yeah.
So in the end, a lot of us are intuitive without really knowing it.
It's so
It's a
true.
nice way to be.
It's so true. And, I love how you just explained like the chicken and the steak because a lot of clients I work with, I teach them like a basic form of muscle testing on themselves so that they can learn to trust their intuition more because, and it's so like the food is such a good example because how often will you go to a cafe and you have all these options on the menu and it can be really overwhelming, but if you trust your intuition and have a way to actually check that in really quickly. So for me, I know what I want within a minute. I'm just like, yep, okay, that's what I want. I keep getting pulled back to that. Sometimes, you might get it down to two. It's like, no, I'm more like I'm just being pulled to that one. I'm going to do that one. And then I go out with other people and they sit there for a good 15 minutes. I'm like, oh my goodness, just make a decision. Like how energy sucking is this? Like you just need to eat something. Like what does your heart tell you want? And it's funny because my mentor who taught me the basic muscle testing to learn to build my intuitive, trust. I went out with her and she goes, I just really want an omelet, but there's no omelet on this menu. And I said, yeah, there is. There's like a whole section. She's like, oh, okay, thank you. I'm glad I said that aloud.
You can do muscle testing in your mind. You don't even have to do it physically.
Yeah.
What I find is that if I picture the muscle testing, I'll get the same result if I do it, with the fingers or with, however you want to do it.
I love that.
So it's all, obviously it's all in your mind. The muscle testing as well. So what I usually do, well, I don't go out to eat that much because I don't trust what's in the restaurant foods. But if I do, I know what I'm going to have before I even get there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, because you
you
have
know,
obviously a craving if you're going to a certain place too, right? So it's like you're already
yeah,
picturing what you want, hence why you're going out in that destination. Um, and yeah, I love that. I never thought about that. Yeah, you could definitely do it in your head because I just learned to
yeah,
then my inner voice would just got really strong from doing that exercise. And then, like you said, you don't have to do the physical muscle testing as much anymore.
yeah,
And I'll purely do it now if I am like working with a client and maybe channeling for them and getting information. I actually check, is this me or is this them? Because sometimes, I don't know if you know when you work with clients, sometimes they walk in, right? And then they're presenting with these things and you're like, this is what's going on in my life. So I just use it to double check. It's not my ego tapping in going, oh, this is me. So it's funny how it's evolved. Whereas now it's like, what do I want to wear? And I just intuitively will get that hit. Or whereas before I would actually test and go through and actually test it with the muscle testing. So I love that you brought in that aspect of doing it mentally. And for some people, they might see it in your head like you do, or for me, I hear it because that's how it comes through for me.
yeah. Well, a lot of what we do can be done mentally.
Yeah.
Um, Almost everything. If you exercise in your head, it's just as good as going out and exercising. If you, try to learn how to do a skill, if you practice in your head, you're teaching your mind how to do it because your mind is basically a learning network. Okay, there is certain people, certain philosophies that have emerged over the years, and what they tell us is that your brain is really an antenna. There's some local storage of information, but in reality, what they say is that your brain is basically a um, a group of fats, lipids, okay, soaking in a mineral bath known as your spinal fluid, and it's set up perfectly as an antenna. And the silk thread that holds your brain to your soul is called the Shoshone. And what they say is that everything that happens to you is stored somewhere else. Some people call it the Akashic record.
Yeah.
Okay, but if your brain is nothing more than a simple learning machine, then you can program it and you can do anything you want to do. There are plenty of people, plenty of books read that talk about, how to reprogram yourself. If you do daily affirmations, okay, you're reprogramming yourself. If you wake up every day and look in the mirror and say, yes, I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to help people. I'm going to, whatever it is you're going to do, I'm going to be a good doctor, a good lawyer, a good plumber. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna treat people with respect. People will treat me with respect, and that's how my day is going to go. Those types of daily affirmations reprogram your brain. And when it comes to healthcare, what I tell a lot of my patients is that you can use meditation to heal yourself. It's done all the time by a lot of people all around the world. And thousands of years ago, we had the shaman, which is a alteration of the word she man. Okay, a shaman was a man who had more more feminine characteristics than the average man, because we all know, even in today's society, much more females are in healthcare than males. Actually, anytime I've worked at an acupuncture clinic where it was myself and a female practitioner, the female would get all the patients. Okay, so I had to find other work. But getting back to meditation, if I did this guided meditation, which was by Alan Watts. I don't know if you've ever heard of Alan Watts. Everybody has, but Alan Watts was a philosophical entertainer from the from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and he has this guided meditation where what you do is you sit and meditate, and as sounds leak into your consciousness, it may be somebody opening a door or an airplane going by or a bird or whatever. Okay, as you hear these sounds, what happens is your brain will label them. Okay, oh, that's the wind. Oh, that's a bird. Okay, but as you learn to meditate more and more deeply, what happens is all these sounds that you hear will kind of fade into the background. Okay, you'll stop labeling them. Okay, and as these different events fade into the background, they become part of the overall environment, part of the universe. Okay, and then eventually you yourself, whatever pain you're experiencing, you're sitting there meditating, maybe your ankle hurts or your knee hurts. Okay, eventually those pains that you have, you'll stop labeling those. And then once you stop labeling those will fade into the background and be part of the universe. And then eventually they start to disappear. And then when that happens, then every time you meditate, you can focus on simply feeling without labeling anything. And then eventually all those aches and pains start to go away. Of course, still helps to eat right and exercise. But
and have some maintenance on your body from acupuncture and other things.
Of course. But meditation is really good for you.
Yeah, and it's so powerful because I just finished listening to, because I do a lot of driving, Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural, and that's a big component of that, is the meditating and taking yourself out and creating, the amount of miracle, and I say miracle in inverted commas, that happen when people go to these things and meditate and get to those really deep levels of meditation. Like you said, you're entering different levels of brain state, and a lot of people don't realize that when you're in those theta brain states and those sort of things, that you can reprogram, you can have these spontaneous healings because, like you said, all of a sudden your brain stops putting labels to it and those sort of things too. And often, I teach my clients, my coaching clients as well, that if your body's in pain, it's trying to tell you something. Like, you really need to listen to it.
Yeah, we have a saying in China: if it hurts, don't do it.
Mm. Mm.
That's a joke. But it's true. A lot of people have various aches and pains, but they also get a bit of a dopamine rush from whatever the activity is. So I've had a lot of patients through the years, and I pretty much tell about half of my patients to quit their jobs. Okay. Because what I find is that a lot of people, their jobs are killing them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not so obvious. But I had one patient, a very nice woman who was a lawyer, and I saw that she had very strong looking shoulders. And I said, I go, you work in an office. I go, do you like backpacking and being out in nature? And she said, oh, yeah, I love it. I go, you need to quit your job and go backpacking and hiking for about 6 months, and you won't have these pains anymore. And you know what she said? She goes, I've been thinking about that for a long time. So a lot of times you need to hear something from a disinterested third party in order to make you fully realize the truth of your own situation.
And
It's
so true.
it's
It's like when you were saying that, I was just getting all the moments in my life of like where someone has said one thing to me and it doesn't seem significant to them, but it's so significant to you, right?
exactly.
And often we, and it's funny that you mentioned the job component, because astrologically we've shifted into this Aquarian age and this year of one. Like, it's all about becoming your own boss and your own entrepreneur and setting your hours that work for you. And we've been so conditioned to work like these 9 to 5 jobs, and that we have to have a massive mortgage and the house and the cars and and it's so funny because my husband and I are going through a journey where we're undoing all of that now. It's like, no, actually this life isn't serving us. We want to create more freedom in so many levels where we're not being chained. And it feels like a ball and chain. Like, if you think about it, sometimes you create these mortgages and situations and it becomes a ball and chain in your life where you're constantly not able to do what you want because you have these obligations, because you have to pay back these mortgages, or you have to pay back that debt, or you have to pay back all those sort of things. And I was visiting my grandparents, and they couldn't understand our decision to have a different life. They just couldn't understand it because they've been so fixated on like, no, but you have to keep working and you have to keep doing. It's like, why? If we can create a life where we can work where we want or serve how we want to serve, why not do that? So yeah.
Yeah, well, you're preaching to the choir there, because my wife and I have gone through several levels of possession reduction,
Mm-hmm.
work reduction,
Yeah.
living. It's not that you're lowering your standard of living. I call it raising your spiritual standard of living.
I
Okay.
love that.
How do you raise your spiritual standard of living? Well, number one, you're not, you're not working your butt off 40 to 60 hours a week for somebody else's profit. Number two, you're focusing on what is truly going to give you meaning and purpose in your life. And number three, you're not going to pray at the altar of consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I literally have, my possessions would fill a small room. Okay. Except for the car. Okay. That's
well, they would fit in the car.
my actually all my possessions would fit in the car. I have, almost, zero possessions. Okay. I have a computer, a desk, and a chair, and a bed, and and a frying pan, and that's it. Okay. I don't need anything else. And what's more important than that is I don't want anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want, um, you know, well, most of all, I don't want to work 60 hours a week so I can buy all kinds of things and, have debt fueled trips to the mall. Those things just do not appeal to me in the slightest. Okay. What I'm focused on is family, of course, um, and and helping those people around me in a way where, in the biblical sense, you teach someone to fish.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in acupuncture, what I do is I try to, uh, in short, get rid of my patients. How do I do that? Well, someone comes in and they have a certain problem. Okay. So, I'll go through my checklist. I call it the 4 pillars of a good life. Diet and exercise is number one. Number two is good sleep. Number three is honorable, honest work. Number four is good relationships. So I'll talk to people, I'll ask them, a very typical question I might ask is tell me your life story. Okay. So once I learn a person's life story and I see whatever the pain is that they're suffering from, and I see how they're doing in each of the 4 different areas, now I can properly recommend to a person how to adjust their life to maintain optimal health. How? Because number one, if somebody has a diet consisting of fast food or food that they don't make themselves, there's an opportunity. Number two, if you have insomnia or you can't get to sleep at night because your brain is racing and overthinking and all that, well, then, you need to calm down. And how do you do that? By reducing your stress, which may be caused by your work or your relationships. So maybe you're working in a job where, there's toxic relationships, or maybe I hate to say it, but maybe you're with the wrong partner. Okay. Or maybe, you have family relationships that are strained. Okay. I had a friend at a job I once worked at, and he said to me one day, "Oh, I hate that person in HR. I just, I can't stand them." I go, "Well, why don't you make it your purpose in life for the next month to make them your friend?" And he like, he was taken aback by that. He's like, "Make them my friend?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "Why don't you find out what that person likes, what they don't like, find some common ground and make a friend?" And he was shocked, because he was waiting for me to say, "Oh yeah, I don't like them either," and all this stuff. And I find that most bad relationships are built on a misunderstanding, or they are the result of one event where maybe that person had a bad day and they took it out on you.
Mm.
Okay?
Right.
So in order to live a good life, um, you got to have good food, exercise, sunshine, fresh air.
All the free
Don't work
things.
too much. Yeah. Don't work too much. Sleep too much if you can, and be nice to everybody around you. But don't let yourself be taken advantage of. That's another thing I stress. Um,
Yeah.
you can be nice, but don't be nice to the point where you give in to everyone. Um, Lately I get a lot of those fraud emails and phone calls. I'm sure everybody does. I don't know what it's like where you are, but here in the United States, every day I get phone calls, emails, and text messages from people trying to steal my money,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's reached a comic level. It's so much. I don't know if you're getting the same type of thing,
Yeah, I just
but
don't answer phone calls that I don't know who they are anymore. And I have anyone listening, very good trick, have a blank voicemail, because then they'll start talking to the blank voicemail and then you know whether or not to actually call them back or not.
it's really quite funny. But
Yeah.
yeah. So with acupuncture, um, it's people call it holistic, natural, and it is all those things. But every acupuncturist is different. every acupuncturist I've ever met is a really nice, good person, and they truly want to help people. Uh, Most Western medical doctors are the same way. They truly want to help, but they're part of a system that is designed for profit. That's measured in dollars, not outcomes.
Mhm.
So they tend to overprescribe medicines and surgeries. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Flexner report. Probably not. Most people haven't. Um, the Flexner report was created in the early 1900s, I think around 1915 or 1920 in the United States. A gentleman by the name of Flexner was commissioned by a group of wealthy industrialists in the crude oil industry to go around the country and get an idea. Yeah, I can see you're laughing already.
Yeah. I'm like, I already know where this is going because I know what you're talking
Yes,
about now.
you
Yeah.
do. Everybody does. So, so what happened was they commissioned him to go around the United States and get a full, measure of what is the state of the medical industry in the United States. And at that time, there were doctors, not chiropractors yet, naturopaths, osteopaths, acupuncture, herbal medicine practitioners. There was all these different kinds of people. And of course, being in the crude oil industry, okay, most people may not be aware that up until the 70s, like 99% of pharmaceuticals were made from crude oil because crude oil is an organic molecule and it's very easy to twist it and make it into new things. And just as a sidebar, I met a retired uh, pharmacist one time. He was 75 years old and been a pharmacist for 50 years. And he goes, what they do in the pharmaceutical industry is they take a molecule that's occurring naturally in nature and they change it from a left hand molecule to a right hand molecule. And your body can readily, your body has, I don't know, I forget if it's always left or right hand, but your body has left hand receptors. And so the molecule in nature is made to, be taken up by your body. But then they make it into a right hand molecule. And that way they're able to patent it. And then it has all kinds of side effects because it's not really made for you. And that's why you have lawsuits every single day against the pharmaceutical industry because they are profit oriented,
Mhm.
not people oriented. And so the Flexner report, of course, the conclusion was the only proper medicine is allopathic medicine. Allopathic equals drugs and surgery.
Mhm.
And the only proper method is the scientific method as laid out by Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. And everybody should be using this method, and everybody else is quack. Okay.
Mm. And
So then,
yeah, okay, I was going to say, and then the crude oil industry went, let's build the universities that these people all go and learn in. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you know the story.
I do.
Yeah, so they took over the universities by giving them big endowments in exchange for changing their curriculum, and then they lobbied Congress, which is a fancy word for bribery, and then the American Medical Association was formed, and then JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, was formed, and then in the 50s, JAMA had all those ads for cigarettes, and of course, you know one Morris Fishbein, the Antichrist, was collecting lots of money from the cigarette companies for running their ads in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And then, what was that guy's name? Gershon, Dr. Gershon, was one of the first doctors to come out and say, no, cigarettes are actually bad for you.
Yeah.
Um, and he was curing people with diet and exercise in the 50s and the 60s. He's still got a clinic in Tijuana, I believe, by his granddaughter. So basically, they the allopathic drugs and surgery group took over the medical industry in this country, and now 100+ years later, people are coming around to the fact that maybe this isn't the best way to do it,
Mm.
and
It's
that's
fun.
why I had the job.
Yeah, and it's funny too because when you're talking about that, I had this meme pop up in my head, but it was like people think it's outrageous when you eat organic food, And we were explaining to my son, because he's like, you know, where we get our organic fruit and veggie from, we're hoping to get more in line with farmers. And actually, no, we're just hoping to grow our own. That's our intention, to grow as much of our own food so we know exactly where it comes from and what's being put on it, etc. But, you know, at the moment we eat everything organic as much as we can. And my son's like, Mum, why is our food organic when nothing's put on it and the other food has all the poisons put on it? And I was like, that is a very good question. You know?
That is a good question.
Yeah. And the fact that they have to wrap, you know, whatever the organic fruit comes in so it's not contaminated for the other food that it's next to is like a thing in itself, right? And it's really funny when you step back. And my husband was in the supermarket and he was getting some organic strawberries. And the lady goes, oh, as if they taste that much better. He goes, actually, they taste so much better. And I'd rather put this in my body than be consuming poisons. And she just looked at him very weirdly. And it's like, well, that's what everything's sprayed with, especially, you know, you've got your Dirty Dozen and they're so high, especially berries are highly sprayed to keep all the pests away. And from growing our own food, it's been an experiment. So our issue was when we started growing our own food where we live now, we didn't account for the wildlife issues. So we had issues of the kangaroos coming and eating all our strawberries, you know. So, and then they were so cheeky. So my husband thought, right, well, I don't want the kangaroos to go away. I'm just going to build something to cover the strawberries. And then they got really cranky when they came back and the strawberry patch was all of a sudden protected. So they pulled out all our beetroot. Didn't eat it, just pulled it out in a temper tantrum. We're like, wow, you know. And then we had issues with possums and all these things. But, you know, again, it's just a learning experiment. And, you know, you just go, okay, I've learned from that. But to know that that food's come from you and your energy's gone into growing it is such a powerful thing, rather than going to get it from somewhere you have no idea how it got there.
Well, you know, 100 years ago, everyone had a garden.
I know.
Okay. And people cooked on wood fires. And what they would do, they would take the ash from the wood fire and use it as fertilizer in the garden.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only reason you would go to the store would be maybe for meats and cheeses that, you know, you didn't do on your own. But everyone had a garden.
Yeah.
Okay. But then what happened was, as the population grew dramatically in the 1900s, people, you know, had electricity, okay, or a gas stove, so you didn't need the wood, and you had a refrigerator instead of an icebox, and then instead of making your own tallow, which I still make my own tallow, people started buying, you know, vegetable oil and canola oil and all these extraordinarily harmful oils, and then the big break in health, not break, but the big problem arose after the vaccinations started. Now, I'm not going to go there right now, but suffice it to say that if you have any questions about vaccinations, you might want to read a book by the name of Dr. Mary's Monkey, okay, in which they chronicle how, well, if you saw the recent Joe Rogan podcast with Dr. Humphreys, she totally blows the lid on something that, you know, a lot of us have known for a very long time. And that is that simian virus 40, SV40, has been a part of almost every vaccine for the last, you know, 75 years. And guess, you know, when cancer became, you know, a big issue? Well, about in the 70s. So there's a direct correlation between vaccinations, SV40, and the boom in cancers. And I'll leave it there. So a lot of people ask me, well, you know, how do I, you know, clear out my body from all these harmful things? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of things you can do. You can eat onions and garlic. Okay. When I was a kid, my mom always said, onions and garlic, they clean your blood. And I would be like, Mom, they don't clean your blood. And later on, I found out, yeah, you know what? They clean your blood of heavy metals.
Yeah.
You can take things like, you know,
Activated charcoal.
Carbon 60. What?
Activated charcoal. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, activated charcoal is certainly a good one for your digestive tract. Okay. But when it comes to your blood, there's different ways to go about it. But I'm going to just, while we're chatting, I'm going to look up my notes.
Yeah, I
on,
like to use burdock and echinacea like as a herb, like tea that you can drink, because burdock can clear the blood. And even when I was doing my herbal course, it said, after vaccinations, especially for kids, we highly recommend that you give them echinacea and burdock to help clean the blood and help the body process what's going through. And for us personally, we got a Rife machine, so I don't know if you know what a Rife machine is.
Oh, really? You got a
Yeah,
Rife machine?
I do.
I
have
thought
a
they were
Rife
all
machine.
destroyed.
No, you can get them now. We will talk about this after. But so, if anyone's listening, they've probably told me to talk about Rife machines before. But yeah, so it puts frequencies through your body and it measures what frequencies are misaligned, and it's really, really cool because you can do. So we're on a detox protocol at the moment, and we're making that a regular quarterly thing. And the amount of things that you think your body's okay, and like I had all the, like, my pimples break out and all these things happen because the detox actually was like, no, there's more things that need to be pulled out of your body, and graphene oxide and things like that. You can run protocols for that too. It's a really amazing investment if you're curious about it, or to find somebody that does it. So and it's infinite what it can do. Like, we haven't even tapped and scratched the surface because we're still learning. We just got it. But it's for us, that was an investment, like you said, to invest in your health, and also a way to try and counteract all the exposures to toxins that we have time.
Yeah. Wow, I'm in shock because I read that they were all destroyed by, the American Medical Association.
Yeah.
And as far as Royal Rife is concerned, he was discredited, destroyed financially, destroyed reputationally, and I thought for sure it was
And I guess that's the most beautiful thing in this current reawakening culture that we have. All these old and ancient, they're not even ancient, that's not even ancient, the Rife machines were in the 30s, but the old technologies are resurfacing and coming back to light because people are like, there's another way for our health. There's another way that we can look into, like, looking after ourselves rather than what we've been told is the way forward.
Yeah, I find that a lot of times not a lot of times, but on occasion I'll have a patient in who's from somewhere in Asia, okay? And it could be anywhere from, Turkey to Thailand, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say, okay, we're going to do this and this on you. And they say, oh, yeah, back in my village in, wherever, it can be anywhere, like I said, anywhere from Turkey to anywhere. They'll say, oh, yeah, we used to use a similar technique back there. So what I find is that a lot of cultures have a lot of medical practices that are similar, except in the West.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the West, we have a culture of medicine that seems to go against a lot of ancient practices and to ridicule them as, like voodoo or something. And a lot of people say to me, well, acupuncture, I've never had it. All I hear is that it's some kind of voodoo and, magical chi energy channels in your body. And I go, no. I go, chi, okay, whether you spell it CHI or QI, chi is the most mistranslated word in acupuncture. Okay. What happened was I think it was the 1800s, there was a very intelligent man who translated some Chinese medicinal texts into European languages. And he mistranslated two words, qi being the first one, and mai. Okay. So you can think of it as qi, QI, and mai, MAI. Okay. So let's deal with mai first. So mai in Chinese medicine means vessel. Okay. So he translated Mai as some mystical channel. Okay. And he translated Qi as some kind of mystical energy. Okay. When in reality, in Chinese medicine, Mai simply means a blood vessel or a nerve. That's it. Okay. And Qi simply means breath or air or vital air, otherwise known as oxygen. Okay. That's it. There is no mystery. There's no mysticism. There's nothing mystical going on with acupuncture. It's a very, very well researched medicinal practice. And when I put a needle into a patient, okay, and I'll give you a perfect example. I had a patient come in about a month or so ago, and I could tell by the way he walked in that his back was hurting. So he was sitting in the waiting area, filling out his forms, and I go, "Your back hurts." He's like, "Yeah." I go, "You're in pain right now, aren't you?" He goes, "Yeah, I can barely sit, I can barely stand." I go, "Let me see." I go, "Which side is it on, left or right?" He's like, "Well, it's hard to tell." I go, "All right, because I'll explain this later." So I go, "Let me see your hand." So I put one needle into his hand between his thumb and his index finger, right in that corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had that. Yeah.
And I go, "Stand up." And he goes, "Oh my God." He goes, "The pain's all but gone." And I go, yeah. I go, "That's every day in here." I go, "That's what we do every day."
It's so funny you say that, because I had an acupuncture treatment a few days ago, and I've had like this on-off numbness, which my friend helped me figure out it was actually from my liver, which I know that sounds really weird because we default going, oh, numbness is nerve pain, but it's like it was coming from my liver. And she put this one needle in my ankle, and my shoulders completely dropped. The energy started to flow again. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And she's like, let's just let you simmer. Like, she just put 2 needles in, that was it. And I was just there cooking, letting it go. And like you said, it's so powerful. And I guess we feel it's magical if you don't understand the meridian systems and how it's all connected energetically, like in our body.
Yeah. It's really the main channels are your nerves.
Yeah.
Okay. So we all know you have a brain, a spinal cord, and then the nerves come out like branches of a tree. So what most people don't know is that the nervous system has interconnections, and the most famous or most well-known interconnection is, God forbid, somebody has a heart attack. Okay. What do they get? They get pain down their left arm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically from the pinky all the way down that edge of the arm. Okay. Now, in acupuncture, that's called the heart channel. Okay. The second most well-known type of pain like that is if a person has a big problem with their liver. Again, God forbid somebody has a big problem with their liver, you can get pain in your right shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's called referred pain.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that work? Well, your nervous system is interconnected, and when there's a problem here, you get a feeling there. Okay. And there's a difference between men and women, but the bottom line is that if I know that you have lower back pain, and I know that a particular acupuncture channel, otherwise known as a nerve, will have an effect in that particular area, I put a needle in there, it causes a signal to go in, your body produces naturally occurring painkillers, opioids, and your pain is gone. And what happens is, once the pain is gone, then the muscle relaxes. And then once the muscle relaxes, the blood flow increases because the muscle's not all tensed up. Okay. When the muscle is tensed up, you don't get the same throughput of blood and lymph fluid. So then once the muscle relaxes, you get more flow, you get more oxygen, otherwise known as qi, and you get more healing proteins and nutrients, and the healing can take place. Yeah. So there's nothing magical about it. It's just medicine.
Yeah. But I like that it's magical medicine. We go with
Now,
that.
if you want it to be magical, we can do magical. Okay. We can talk about, meditation and like I did before. But acupuncture itself
Yeah.
is really just, needles, moxibustion. Have you ever had moxa?
Yes, I have. Love that. And I actually had an incident where I was reacting, let's just say reacting to a certain thing that was happening, and I started bleeding, and I had to use the Moxa stick to help rebalance that channel and get my cycle back into alignment. So I won't bring that up too much, but
Right.
but yeah, I love that there's all these different elements, and I guess if anyone's curious about acupuncture, to be willing to ask questions to your practitioners too, because there's with anything, there's always the people that are aligned with their profession versus people that are just kind of doing it. So, and it's different. I want to emphasize too, it's different to dry needling that like physiotherapists and things do. It's a different, completely different
Well,
process. Yeah.
as long as we're on that subject,
Yeah.
okay. Dry needling is an abomination.
I'm glad
I'll tell you right now, and I'll tell you why. Okay.
Yeah.
In order to become an acupuncturist in the state of Texas, where I live,
Yeah.
you need to have a bachelor's degree, which means 4 years of college, just to get into acupuncture college. Okay. Then you need 4 years of acupuncture college.
Mhm.
Okay. And in that 4 years of acupuncture college, you are doing nothing but taking courses on points, herbs, how to combine different points, how to use herbal formulas, and then you have to do hundreds of treatments. Okay. And then you have to take a myriad of tests. For a physical therapist to do dry needling, they take one class.
Yeah.
For a medical doctor to do acupuncture, they take one class. For a chiropractor to get an acupuncture license, they take one class.
Yeah.
Okay. If the person who is doing acupuncture has not been in school and done hundreds or thousands of treatments, they are not doing acupuncture.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
rest my case.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important thing, because it's funny because people will say to me, "Oh yeah, I've had it." And I'm like, "What happened?" They're like, "Oh yeah, my physio did it." And I was like, "That's not acupuncture." And for me, I was very blessed. The first acupuncturist I met had actually trained in China, and had a doctorate from China. So, and everyone who I've met after that, they're very I'm very lucky. Well, I'm not. I use my intuition and trust who I feel pulled to. So, as we finish our time together, Paul, we could talk all day. Thomas, sorry, I don't know why I said Paul. Thomas, as we finish our time together, if there was something you could heal or change in the world, what would it be?
Good food for everyone.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you really need. There's a restaurant near where I live. Vegetarian. I'm not a vegetarian, but it's a vegetarian restaurant that I go sometimes. And the sign above the door says, "If the diet is right, you don't need the medicine. If the diet is wrong, the medicine won't help."
How perfect.
So for me, that says it.
Perfect. I love that. And if people want to connect with you, Thomas, how can they connect with you?
Just email me at goldentouchacupuncture@gmail.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. We've gone down many rabbit holes. Leave some seeds for people to go have a look if they want to water them. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Until next time, remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.